paradise. Oh my God. If I hear about Sweden and Denmark one more time, I'm going to throw up. Listen, I love Sweden and Denmark. They're wonderful places. It's not a knock on the people. Again, we're all children of God. We're talking about governing systems. This is such a naive and silly argument. I don't even know where to start, because when you mention the fact that when you mention the facts to people about what's actually going on in Sweden and Denmark, they ignore it and they just move on to, well, you're a liar. And some guy who lives in Sweden will go, oh, we love it here. I'm not saying you don't love it there. Everybody loves Sweden. What I'm telling you is we're arguing market economics versus degrees of socialism and degrees of central planning. Okay? There are heavily planned economies. They are heavily taxed economies in Scandinavia, number one. Number two, Scandinavian countries didn't have to deal with feudalism. So they got to really build a lot of wealth. Joe, this is important. Before the welfare state kicked in, they didn't have to deal with a lot of lords and kings owning land and the remnants of that and the transfer overall to market economies later on. The Scandinavian countries built a bevy of wealth on the hardworking backs of their people before democratic socialism kicked in. Here's the interesting thing, Joe. After democratic socialism and the welfare state kicked in, those countries have been on an economic decline. It hasn't been. Their economies have been stalling. I mean, you can look this up yourself. Look at the number. This is a great number, the great statistic out there for you to look up. Look at the number of long-term businesses started pre-expansion of the welfare state in Scandinavia and the businesses afterwards. It's night and day. Look at what's happening in Sweden, where they're moving more towards a market economy and away from democratic socialism. Here's another kicker, Joe, in Sweden. Roughly 10% of the population is now buying expensive private insurance, even though the insurance in Sweden is government provided and is so-called free, Joe. So let me get this straight. You have free government-provided health care in Sweden and in places like Canada as well. And you're still paying to get insurance. And you think this is a great system? 40,000 Canadians a year that we know about, by the way, cross into the United States to pay for health care, even though they have so-called free health care in Canada. I mean, what part of this do you not get? 5% of doctors in the UK that will admit to this, by the way, because they have socialized medicine there too. 5% admit to knowing a person who has died because of rationed health care. So let me get this straight. There's about 100 doctors in Palm City, where I live in Florida, probably more. 5 of those doctors know a patient who died waiting for health care. And this is, let's emulate that system. That's a great, and those are the only doctors that'll admit to it. It's probably closer to 20%. So the Scandinavian myth is nonsense. Here's another one for all you Scandinavia lovers out there who really have no concept of data and facts. Swedes in the United States have a larger net worth than Swedes in Sweden. Hello, McFly. Here's another one. This is another one, Joe. This one. You tell them this one, they freak out and they don't believe it's true until they actually look at the numbers. If Sweden was a state in the United States, the Scandinavian Democratic Socialists and Bernie Sanders lovers would tell you, oh, yeah, it would probably be the richest state. No, wrong. It would actually be the poorest. It would be poorer than the poorest states we have. It would be the poorest state in the United States. And you want to emulate this stupidity, this economic system? Come on, guy. Give me a break. I'm tired of hearing about from Sanders supporters these lies and these misconceptions, because you're polluting the minds of young and easily influenced kids who think this guy's speaking the truth. Sanders is talking nonsense. And then they talk about socialism like this has never been tried. They're like, oh, this is a great idea, Joe. Listen, all we have to do is turn over the factories and the means of production to the people. The people, we're all working. This money's being made on our backs. Okay, that sounds great. Everybody applauds. Oh yeah, great. The people, they should own the factories. They tried that in the Soviet Union. And what happened? Everybody walked off with all the factory stuff. That's what happened. You know what happened next? The government came in with the guns and put the guns in the door and said, no, get to work. Oh, what do you mean? I thought we owned this. No, you own it, but I'll shoot you if you leave. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Hundreds of millions of people died because, Stalin and Mao, the Great Famine, came in and stole everybody's so-called production that was being shared. It's interesting, and it's called shared when a government agent comes in with a gun and says, Joe, it's sharing time. Oh, what do you mean? I haven't eaten yet. No, we're going to share your ribeye. With who? With everyone but you. Oh, okay. Thank you, socialism.
And the products were so good.
Oh, they were wonderful. The Lada, that Lada.
Oh.
Remember the Lada? I mean, the thing about the Lada, the Russian car that was made under socialism, as a form of an economic organization system. The thing about the Lada that made people very rich was tow trucks, because the Lada, you would drive off the lot, and the Lada would break down before you got off the lot because there was no profit incentive. Nobody cared.
I used to collect Russian cameras, and the quality of them was very, very poor.
I remember going over in 99 to Moscow as a Secret Service agent, my first trip, and they were still, even then, recovering from the remnants of the devastation socialism had wreaked upon its economy. And I remember I forgot my razor. And the hotel gave me one of the... Joe, I swear it was like shaving with a lawn edger. I was like, my face was bloody like a stump. And I said to... I think I called one of the guys. I'm like, please tell me you've got a Bic or a Gillette. Please, God. Why? Because I shaved with one of these Russian... Look at my face. They came downstairs. It looked like I had been in a fight with Brock Lesnar, and it went 5 rounds. I mean, Joe, it was like a bloody mess. But you're right. Your point is right. Like, the products were awful because there was no incentive to make good products. There was no, as you said before, competition. Now, one more thing, and we'll wrap this up for the day for these Sanders supporters, because they don't understand this either. And I want to be very careful in how I say this, because I don't want to seem like we're not a meritocracy as a society. In many respects, we are. But they keep putting out there like, listen, good intentions are going to matter in the market in the end, and listen, good intentions should matter, and competition in the end hopefully does reward good intentions. But we're a system of human beings. Every system we use, economic system, is going to be flawed. It's just a question of what's the least flawed. That's it. There's no perfect system, markets or otherwise, right? But, folks, I'm sorry to tell you this. Consumers are not they're not basing their decisions on a meritocracy. And the example that I heard, and forgive me because I can never remember who told me this, but it's such a brilliant example of how the free markets are not meritocracies, and frankly, neither are socialistic economies either, redistributive economies. If you're, God forbid, your son or your daughter needed life-saving brain surgery, nobody goes online and Googles like, well, who's the nicest doctor? We're not a meritocracy in that respect. We're an economy based on productivity. And here's what I mean by that. We pay people who produce results. Sometimes they're not the nicest people. Sometimes they are. Sometimes nice people win. Sometimes they lose. Sometimes bad people who produce really good stuff that make the world better succeed. I'm not a huge fan of a number of people. I don't like the guy's politics at Apple right now, but I still have an iPhone because he makes a good product. I can't stand his politics. The point is, you want the brain surgeon, and you Google the brain surgeon where everybody goes on Yelp. I don't use Angie's List anymore after they became overly political on me. But they go on Yelp but you can see competition, right? Yelp, I think, is better too. That makes me even furthers my point, even though it was unintended. I just think Yelp is easier to use. But you go on Yelp and you look up the brain surgeon, Joe, the brain surgeon who has the best results. Oh, this guy saved my daughter's life. No one goes, oh, but he's really rude, so I'm not going to use him again. So the point is, markets do that best. Markets do that best, not government bureaucrats picking out the products and services that they think Joe Armacost wants, because they don't know what Joe wants, because they've never interviewed Joe. They just put out these edicts. They pick their friends. Their friend makes pins, and they go, hey, Joe, you're the new pin company. Well, do you make good pins? No, I don't care. He paid off this guy. That's how this happens, and that's why crony capitalism in the United States is so dangerous, too. All right. Well, that was a lot of stuff we covered today. Sticky Notes was longer. And one final note, folks. And by the way, thank you, Joe. Another good job. Thank you for producing the show. October 5th, We have some really exciting news. Monday, October 5th, we will be, maybe I should just say it. I said to you before.
Go ahead.
We're going to be going to a daily show starting October 5th. So I really appreciate all the comments, people who said they wanted more content. So roughly the same format of the show. I'll be the Renegade Republican with Dan Bongino, because I don't like to associate myself with the standard establishment GOP under any circumstances. And we will be going to daily content. You'll be seeing a lot more great stuff. We're going to be incorporating a couple guests here and there, and Sticky Notes is going to stay. I know we got a lot of nice compliments on that. So I appreciate all your support. It means the world to me. Thanks for keeping us in the top charts. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at DBongino and Dan Bongino on Facebook. And again, thank you so much to the loyal listeners out there. I so deeply appreciate it. And have a great
Number 40, Dan.
All right, buddy. Well, talk
Number
to you
40.
soon. In the can. See you later, pal.
You betcha.